that black people can call themselves the N-word, and for clarity's sake, I'm not going to keep using the N-word, I'm going to say it. Why is it that black people can call themselves niggas and other people can't call them niggers? So, Adeline, let's start with you.
Oh, they can't, and they shouldn't. I think it's absolutely outrageous. I think that how you label yourself, how you label yourself, basically creates the perception that you want people to have of you. And I don't think that blacks should refer to themselves as niggas, niggers, or whatever they want to refer to themselves as. I don't think it's fair. Because on the one hand, they can go around calling themselves by this derogatory term. They can label themselves this way. But God forbid somebody in the office says it. Somebody uses the term in the wrong way or says it in a joking manner. All of a sudden, we have a federal lawsuit on our hands. They're screaming race discrimination. So you either want to be viewed that way, you either want to be perceived by this label that you're attaching to yourself, or you don't. You just can't have it both ways.
Well, I think it depends on the content and the context of the word. And I think if people call themselves that, it's up to them. If I invite you to my house and you see my husband calling me a horse's ass, that's my business with my husband. It could be an inside joke. It could be something else. You try calling me a horse's ass, it's going to be on. But you know what I'm saying? It really depends on what people decide is acceptable for them. And for me personally, if a black person comes up to me and says, oh, you're my nigga, do I use the word? No. Do I condone the use of it? No. Is it acceptable in my house? Absolutely not. Will I sue if somebody at work calls me that? Absolutely. You better believe it. But if another black person comes up to me and says it, I'll be like, all right, and just walk away. I'm not going to be like, oh, you're my nigga too. I don't use it. But but I have been on the receiving end of both sides of it, where I've had a black person come up to me. I was in court one day and I happened to do something. I don't remember what it was. I was arguing a motion, and I guess I did a good job. And a young boy, because I've only heard like young kids use it amongst themselves. He was like 17 or 18, and I walked by and he was like, oh, you did good, my nigga. Something like that. And I just looked at him. I was like, all right. And I kept going, And I was okay with that. I was like, you know what, ignorant child, but I kept it going. I moved on. Now, I've also been called nigger by someone, and it wasn't even in the South. It wasn't that long ago. It was, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, and it was on Madison Avenue. I was in my suit going to work and to my office in Madison Avenue, and I guess I got too close to a woman, and she turned around and she said, why are you following me, nigger? And I stopped and I was like, okay, who is this woman talking to? Because you don't assume that people are going to address you that way. And she said, I'm talking to you, nigger. She said, get away from me. And then she said, and yes, I called you a nigger. Nigger, 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 nigger.
Oh my God.
Crazy person.
And she kept saying it. And ultimately, I looked at her. And I thought, and I'm from the South Bronx, so I'm thinking to myself, wow, I'm going to have to take somebody down today, But I stopped, and I stopped myself. I looked her in the eyes, and I said, lady, you're not worth my time. And I kept going. But it's the content, it's how it's being used, and what the meaning is behind it.
Yeah.
Well, just to now bridge the two topics, if a woman calls herself a hoe, does that goes and actually allows other people to go and have a derogatory view of that woman. So you have a problem here. The same may be the case with the N-word. If it is being used, then it seems to be okay. It's out there. It's fair game. It's in the population. Even the taking of a word such as bitch, as some feminists have done, opens the door to somebody who's going to use it or abuse it in that context or another context. The idea that the same thing could happen to other groups like African Americans. The way we go and choose to go and see ourselves, and I happen to notice that you ignore the young, ignorant man who used the word, so there is actually something too offensive even from an African American to an African American. Why would it be okay? I'll leave that like that.
Well, you know, I think my last point on this is that people only seem to find it offensive when it comes to blacks. I think people are offended that blacks get to call themselves niggers and they don't get to call them niggers. But the fact of the matter is that other groups of people also do it. You have now, you know, the gay people who have reappropriated the word queer. Queer historically was a very derogatory term for being gay. And now, you know, you have queer eye for the straight guy. You have queer as folk. It's part of the lexicon. The same thing with redneck. All right? Would I go up to a white person and call him a redneck? No. But you have redneck chopper. You have my big redneck wedding, my big redneck vacation. You know, Jeff Foxworthy, who's made millions off of You Know You're a Redneck If series. You know, I think it's the same thing.
Well, again, Mirna, you can't have it both ways, okay? If you're going to call yourself a nigger and you're going to attach that label to yourself, then you can't go and sue the whole of, you know, corporate America when they use that term to label you as well. If you're going to call yourself a redneck or a hoe, and then your manager calls you a redneck or a hoe, then, you know, you're basically in the same position.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for that discussion. It was very enlightening. That is all the time that we actually have for the show today. But, you know, I hope you guys out there enjoy the topics that we have discussed. And as always, keep sending us your comments, your thoughts, and, of course, your opinions, because this show is about you. And join us the next times when our show topics will be equal rights, you know, marriage, equal marriage rights, and also whether Puerto Rico should be the 51st state. So thank you.